Oh my God.
Middle class and working class people that their enemies are those who have less than them. Talk TV loves to attack the welfare state. Their presenters constantly paint a picture of people sitting around doing nothing and milking the taxpayer dry. Here, Julia Hartley Brewer clashed with James Mathewson, a former Labour spokesman, on the issue of benefits and the government's plan to get more people off them and into work. Julia demonstrates a fundamental lack of understanding of the issue. And sadly,
hell?
James doesn't do a great
Hey.
job of explaining why she's wrong. But I'll give it a go.
Can I just run something by Robert Jenrick, one of the Tory leadership contenders still in the running? He has said this morning at the Centre for Policy Studies that cutting Britain's welfare bill could enable income tax. He says if he was in charge, it'd be a more efficient state. He says more and more people have been trapped in a cycle of dependency. Let's bring the inactivity rate back down to its pre-pandemic level. Frankly, it needs to go down way lower than that. And he says we could take £12 billion off the working age benefits level bill, and that would equate to 2p off the basic income tax rate. Would you support that?
No, not at all.
We should definitely have more people claiming incapacity and disability benefits. Really? You support that?
You should have more people doing it, but if people are claiming it, they need it. That's as simple as that.
Really? Yeah, you want to talk to some people in the benefits office because they don't agree with you. How come we have such a higher rate of incapacity and disability?
Hi guys, the role of the right-wing media is to encourage middle-class and working-class people that their enemies are those who have less than them. Talk TV loves to attack the welfare state. Their presenters constantly paint a picture of people sitting around doing nothing and milking the taxpayer dry. Here Julia Hartley-Brewer clashed with James Matthewson, a former Labour spokesman, on the issue of benefits and the government's plan to get more people off them and into work. Julia demonstrates a fundamental lack of understanding of the issue, and sadly James doesn't do a great job of explaining
Come on, connect, fucker.
why she's wrong. But I'll give it a go. Hi guys, the role of the right-wing media is to encourage middle-class and working-class people that their enemies are those who have less than them. Talk TV loves to attack the welfare state. Their presenters constantly paint a picture of people sitting around doing nothing and milking the taxpayer dry. Here Julia Hartley-Brewer clashed with James Matthewson, a former Labour spokesman, on the issue of benefits and the government's plan to get more people off them and into work. Julia demonstrates a fundamental lack of understanding of the issue, and sadly James doesn't do a great job of explaining why she's wrong. But I'll give it a go.
Can I just run something by Robert Jenrick, one of the Tory leadership contenders still in the running? He has said this morning at the Centre for Policy Studies that cutting Britain's welfare bill could enable a 2p cut to income tax. He says if he was in charge, it'd be a more efficient state. He says more and more people have been trapped in a cycle of dependency. Let's bring the inactivity rate back down to its pre-pandemic level. Frankly, it needs to go down way lower than that. And he says we could take £12 billion off the working age benefits level bill, and that would equate to 2p off the basic income tax rate. Would you support that?
No.
It wouldn't work like that, Julia, for fuck's sake. Oh, Christ.
We should definitely have more people claiming incapacity and disability benefits. Really? You support that?
You should have more people doing it, but if people are claiming it, they need it. That's as simple as that.
Really?
That's as far.
Yeah, you want to talk to some people in the benefits office because they don't agree with you. How come we have such a higher rate of incapacity and disability in this country that is, I mean, absolutely dwarfs the rate that we see in other countries? Are we just miraculously much sicker here?
It's not true. I mean, if you look at countries like Germany, where they have a stronger welfare state than us, and they're very proud of their welfare state. Same with the Scandinavian countries.
They pay a lot more tax than us.
We have this constant battle here between welfare and people on welfare being blamed when we turn a blind eye to the richest and to those in big business.
That's a completely different argument. We don't turn people constantly talk about taxing rich people. In Germany, most European countries, particularly Scandinavian countries, they pay a lot. The average worker, there's no 20% basic tax rate in those countries. But the average worker is paying a good 10% more than that. People pay a lot more taxes. They get better public services. They have for many, many years. That's not my point. We have far more people per head of the population who are of working age, who are claiming disability and incapacity benefit, and particularly, post-COVID, than any other comparable Western country. And you're saying, but they all need it. What are the odds that we uniquely in Britain have so many more sick and disabled people?
I'm not saying that they all need it, but I'm so bemused by this constant picking on those people. Have you lived on benefits? Have you lived?
No, I've always worked because I'm able-bodied, and I think it's immoral for people who are able to work not to work. I think it's literally immoral.
Right. Well, I was raised by a single mother who didn't always have the time to work. She worked when she could, and she worked part-time, but she was very proud to work when she could. But she had to rely on the state and state support. So we were benefit.
Who was criticising her? I wasn't criticising her.
I received free school meals. All I'm saying is that people on benefits are an easy target, and I think.
Well, they're not an easy target because they're growing. We're talking specifically here. Robert Jenrick is talking specifically here, and it's something that the Labour have talked about as well. Talking about people on. James, you're refusing to address the actual question I've now asked you 3 times. Why do we, or what is the explanation for why we in Britain, uniquely among Western nations, have far more people, and particularly since COVID, far more people who are claiming disability and incapacity benefit than other countries per head of the population? What could be the explanation for that? Other than that, some people are swinging the lead.
It's not about swinging the lead, it's the NHS waiting list. Now, what has the NHS waiting list got to do with people claiming benefits, disability or other types of benefits? If an individual is sick, they have an accident, they have a health problem, and they apply for some sort of treatment, they're put on the NHS waiting list. But if the NHS waiting list constantly is going up, it has exploded over the last number of years.
Okay, I'll start it from the beginning.
Hi guys, the role of the right-wing media.
Let's see if I can get these fucking working. What the hell? Like fuck for that.
Is to encourage middle class and working class people that their enemies are those who have less than them. Talk TV loves to attack the welfare state. Their presenters constantly paint a picture of people sitting around doing nothing and milking the taxpayer dry. Here Julia Hartley-Brewer clashed with James Mathewson, a former Labour spokesman, on the issue of benefits and the government's plan to get more people off them and into work. Julia demonstrates a fundamental lack of understanding of the issue, and sadly James doesn't do a great job of explaining why she's wrong. But I'll give it a go.
Can I just run something by? Robert Jenrick, one of the Tory leadership contenders still in the running, he has said this morning at the Centre for Policy Studies that cutting Britain's welfare bill could enable a 2p cut to income tax. He says if he was in charge, it'd be a more efficient state. He says more and more people have been trapped in a cycle of dependency. Let's bring the inactivity rate back down to its pre-pandemic level. Frankly, it needs to go down way lower than that. And he says we could take £12 billion off the working age benefits level bill, and that would equate to 2p off the basic income tax rate. Would you support that?
No, not at all.
We should definitely have more people claiming incapacity and disability benefits. Really? You support that?
You should have more people doing it, but if people are claiming it, they need it. That's as simple as that.
Really? Yeah, you want to talk to some people in the benefits office because they don't agree with you. How come we have such a higher rate of incapacity and disability in this country that is, I mean, absolutely dwarfs the rate that we see in other countries? Or are we just miraculously much sicker here?
It's not true. I mean, if you look at countries like Germany, where they have a stronger welfare state than us, and they're very proud of their welfare state. Same with the Scandinavian countries.
They pay a lot more tax than us.
We have this constant battle here between welfare and people on welfare being blamed when we turn a blind eye to the richest and to those in big business.
That's a completely different argument. We don't.
No, it isn't. Shut the fuck up. If you actually start taxing the upper echelons, the upper tax brackets, and fund everything that this country fucking needs, it will work. Stop coming after people like me. We can't go back into the world of work, as you lot put it. We can't do that. Our health conditions are fucking horrible, and we can't do much, right? So you actually advocating for this? It just shows how much of a ghoul you are, Julia. What the hell?
People constantly talk about taxing rich people. In Germany,
because it's only fair.
Scandinavian countries, they pay a lot. The average worker, there's no 20% basic tax rate in those countries, but the average worker is paying a good 10% more than that. People pay a lot more taxes. They get better public services. They have for many, many years. That's not.
Most of the Scandinavian ones have 25% for people earning less than 50,000, either the local currency or the euro. So they don't get taxed that much. And even at that, their tax brackets like we have here are a hell of a nicer than ours. If you even go at 1 penny past the next tax bracket, you get bloody well hammered. We need to resort the tax brackets and start taxing the upper echelons. You know this. I'm bloody well sure that you know this, okay? So you advocating for actually attacking the lower waged people, the ones who keep this country fucking running, you'll decimate us again. We've already been fucking annihilated in certain aspects and communities. So no. You're a bloody ghoul.
Not my point. We have far more people per head of the population who are of working age who are claiming disability and incapacity benefit.
Because they cut the funding to the NHS. If you don't actually help cure or keep people on an even keel health-wise, they're not going to be able to work. The pandemic was fucking proof of that. Grr.
And particularly, post-COVID, than any other comparable Western country. And you're saying, but they all need it. What are the odds that we uniquely, in Britain, have so many more sick and disabled people?
Because we cut the funding to the NHS.
Just said that.
I'm so bemused by this constant picking on those people. Have you lived on benefits? Have you lived?
Oh yeah,
no,
Jim,
I've
totally.
always worked because I'm able-bodied, and I think it's immoral for people who are able to work.
You actually think your job's a job? No, it fucking isn't. My sister does her job. She's a community nurse. My other sister does the job. She's a union organiser for the STUC. Well, she was USDO, but now she's STUC. She helps people do training, get better prospects, and get degrees in college certifications so they can get a higher wage. My mum used to do a job. She was a midwife. Now that's hard work. So all these working class people that you keep on denigrating get so fucking pissed off at you.
Not to work. I think it's literally immoral.
Right. Well, I was raised by a single mother who didn't always have the time to work. She worked when she could, and she worked part time, but she was very proud to work when she could. But she had to rely on the state and state support. So we were benefit.
Who was criticising her? I wasn't criticising her.
I received free schooling.
Yes, you were.
All I'm saying is that people on benefits are an easy target, and I think.
Well, they're not an easy target because they're growing. We're talking specifically here. Robert Jenrick is talking specifically here, and it's something that the Labour have talked about as well. Talking about people on. James, you're refusing to address the actual question I've now asked you 3 times. Why do we, or what is the explanation for why we in Britain, uniquely among Western nations, have far more people, and particularly since COVID, far more people who are claiming disability and incapacity benefit than other countries per head of the population? What?
Because we've cut the funding to the NHS. We don't have community care anymore because the Tories fucking cut it. Thank you, Gideon, you absolute ghoul. We should be able to do community healthcare, but we can't now because you fucking cut it. The waiting list in England are fucking horrendous for people who can actually get a good quality of life with the correct medication and treatment plan, whatever it may be, and they can go back into work. They're attacking people like me who can go back into work. That is just evil, absolutely evil. The reason we're in this state is because the NHS and public services have been cut back to the bone now.
Could be the explanation for that. Other than that, some people are swinging the lead.
It's not about swinging the lead. It's the NHS waiting list. Now, what has the NHS waiting list got to do with people claiming benefits, disability or other types of benefits? If an individual is sick, they have an accident, they have a health problem, and they apply for some sort of treatment, they're put on the NHS waiting list. But if the NHS waiting list constantly is going up, it has exploded over the last number of years, then they have to wait until they can be fit enough to work again. And in order to survive, they have to apply for benefits. That's the reality. It's as simple as that. If the Conservatives, when they were in power, did not invest sufficiently. I'm not talking about increasing money or money going up in real terms. I'm talking about sufficient funding. If the NHS was not sufficiently funded, of course the NHS waiting list is going to go up. We've heard story after story about doctors, nurses leaving, which is of course leaving a massive workload on those who are left, who are burnt out. People quitting to work in different sectors. In the private sector, to work in supermarkets, people going abroad to places like Australia, Canada, where the pay and conditions are better. So this, of course, is going to add to the NHS waiting list. If the NHS waiting list is extremely long and somebody's waiting for treatment, then they're going to be on benefits. That's the reality of the situation. That's the core problem. Now, if you want to move more people off benefits, then the priority should be to bring down the NHS waiting list. Now, some people have quit because of stress in their work or just given up because it's not worth it. That's another cohort. But the biggest problem is the NHS waiting list. It's about 8 or 9 million at this stage. Now, if people can't get treatment...
Last time I checked, it was about 8.1 million on the waiting list in England. It's bad up here. It's about just under 2 million on the waiting list up here. But we're trying to fix that now. You lot aren't, because of ghouls like her. An NHS waiting list that long is fucking ridiculous.
Then they can't work. If they can't work and they have to survive, they have to pay bills, they have to feed their family, they have to rely on benefits then. That's the reality. You can complain about that, you can attack these people, you can call them lazy or say that they're swinging the lead, but that's the reality. Now, if you want to reduce those numbers, then you should be putting pressure on the government to bring down the NHS waiting list, to make sure that doctors and nurses are paid sufficiently to stay in the country, to stay in that profession. But unfortunately, people like Julie Hartley-Brewer and those on the right will say that doctors and nurses are overpaid, that they're earning too much money. So on the one hand, they're saying we don't want to pay doctors and nurses more, but on the other hand, they're complaining about the consequences of these doctors and nurses leaving, which of course is the NHS waiting list going up and means more people are not able to access the care they need. And of course, it means that more people are on benefits.
Yeah.
Why is this so difficult to understand? It's elementary. It's simple. If people are sick.
It is ghouls in my eyes, really. Hard. People like Julie Hartley-Brewer, Nick Ferrari, and to some extent, Mr. Sensible. Ugh. Can't believe I used to watch James O'Brien, really. Christ. I'm glad I've been educated out of watching him now. Thank you, Helena. You lovely woman. Love it. So all these people, the centrists and the right-wingers, we'll forget about the far right for a second, like Farage and all, and his band in Parliament now. Ugh. Want to change the model to something more like America. Fuck that. No. Advocating for it so you can buy shares and watch people fucking die because they can't get their fucking healthcare. No, I'm not going to sit by and watch that fucking happen. I'm going to challenge you at every fucking point.
Be it mental health issues, maybe physical health issues, if they're sick and they can't get treatment because the NHS waiting list is so long, then of course they're going to be on benefits. What else are they supposed to do? Starve? Try and do some other work, but if they're sick, they can't do other work. Why is this so difficult for people like Julie Hartley-Brewer? Is it she doesn't understand, or she has decided, I don't want to understand this reality? It's easier for me just to say these people are lazy, these people are swinging the lead, these people are gaming the system. And notice who she referred to here. Robert Jenrick, talking about cutting funding for the DWP, cutting benefits. What would that achieve? Most of the people, vast majority of the people on these benefits don't want to be on the benefits. They would prefer to be working, but they can't work because they're not well enough to work. So cutting their benefits, if you're able to bring it down, if people get sick, get treatment quickly, they can get back into the workplace and they don't need to apply for benefits. Now, the budget is coming up and it's looking likely that Rachel Reeves is going to focus on the NHS, and that makes sense because if you're able to bring...
I will be covering the budget Wednesday the 30th. You've got PMQs with Sir Keith and Fishy Rishi. Then after that, Rachel Reeves comes up. She's actually allowed to have a drink while she's doing the budget. One of those old stupid arts traditions that they keep in place for fuck knows what reason. So she can get a drink and she can tell the budget what the government plan is and how she's going to implement it. So I'll be watching that. Actually debating if I'm going to live stream while she's doing it, which might be fun. I'll make sure that my super hubby's okay with it, then I'll live stream it right after PMQs. So that'll be great. So, dear God, let's see what she's going to do to us.
the NHS waiting list down by investing sufficient resources, making sure that doctors and nurses stay there, don't leave to work in supermarkets or travel around the world to get better job conditions or better pay, then you're going to be able to bring down the NHS waiting list, and then you're going to be able to move people off benefits, because they, once again, if they get the treatment they need, they'll get back into the workplace. It's so simple, but people like Julia Hartley-Brewer don't want to see that. It's easier for them just to point the finger and say, these people are lazy, these people are swinging the lead, and they need to be punished in some way. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.
Not hearing. Oh, the war cars video. Yep. We're doing the war cars video. And then we're going to be moving on to the table. Surprise. People are stupid.
Novara Media's Ash Sarkar was on BBC Question Time this week. Let's see how it went.
For destruction of healthcare services in particular, and said that Israel could be guilty of the crime of extermination. Israel is facing accusations of genocide at the International Court of Justice. The International Criminal Court also found that Israel had been upholding apartheid and occupation predominantly in the West Bank. This was not about self-defense. It was about using the horrific events of October 7th as an excuse to ethnically cleanse parts of Gaza, to destroy much of the Palestinian population in Gaza, and to redraw the regional map so that Israel comes out on top.
Really important issues we talk about so much on this show. Let's go to a next intervention. Ash was asked about a hypothetical. What would Israeli self-defense have looked like if they hadn't done what they did?
You have to look at what is most in the interests of civilians, both Palestinian and Israeli. The only way forward would be a negotiated settlement. There was ceasefire for hostages deals on the table as far back as last October. And part of the reason why Netanyahu kept rejecting it is because he thought he could push his part further. And so that has endangered Israeli civilians. They've been subject to rocket attacks. It's endangered the lives of those hostages who are still in Gaza.
So what do you think
in utter savagery?
What do you think Israel should have done on the 8th of October?
I think what they should have done is negotiated for those hostages back, and also put
negotiate with
process,
Hamas.
Yes, and put a
on
peace
the day
process.
After the attack.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I can hear you laughing in the background. Nothing that the Palestinians have done has resulted in the advancement of their cause. When they've chosen peaceful means, like the Great March of Return a couple of years ago, Israeli forces opened fire and killed over 200 people.
Okay.
It's kind of odd the way this. You would negotiate with them the day after October the 7th. I mean, in a hostage situation, you do normally negotiate with the hostage takers kind of straight away. Like the response to a hostage situation isn't normally let's bomb a bunch of cities and kill tens of thousands of civilians. The response that Israel has had to a hostage situation is not normal. We don't want to start seeing that as the precedent which one would expect in such a situation, and treat any other proposal as sort of borderline ridiculous. I don't think that would be a particularly helpful or healthy place for us to get to as a society. Also on the panel was conservative author and satirist Konstantin Kissin. Here's how he responded to Ash's points.
The idea that in the wake of the largest terrorist attack in living memory in Israel and around the world. The solution to that was to negotiate with the people who not only did it, not only murdered over 1,000 people and raped women and took hundreds of hostages and dragged them off, but also have continued to commit themselves to repeating that attack again and again and again. The idea that you could possibly negotiate with these people when they continue to promise to repeat their terrorist attack. The man who was killed today was appointed to replace the man who was assassinated, who was the previous leader of Hamas, in order to demonstrate the commitment to this. Jeremy Bowen of the BBC just a few days ago interviewed one of the leaders of Hamas who refused to commit to his two-state solution, who refused to abandon the cause of terrorism. My point to you is there's an option on the table for Hamas, which is to hand back the hostages they've taken, to withdraw the threat that they have given repeatedly through their various leaders, to repeat the terrorist attack on October 7th, to hand over the terrorists who committed those atrocities for justice, and then Israel, of course, must immediately stop hostilities and negotiate for peace.
There is an option that they can immediately do, right? There's an option that Israel could immediately do as well, which is withdraw all of its settlements from the West Bank, which is to say the Palestinians can have a state, which is to end apartheid, right? Both sides could do something which would immediately end the conflict, but neither sides are willing to because, well, I suppose on the Israeli case they don't need to because they're so strong, and on the Palestinian side it's because their minimum demands haven't been met, none of them they can live with. Aaron, what did you make of that sort of conversation? It's always a difficult question to get asked, what should they have done on October the 8th, because it ignores the fact that, well, what Israel probably should have done is not illegally occupy the West Bank and Gaza for 56 years.
Well, that's quite right. I mean, the context here is all important. If you're going to decry terrorism, then talk about the King David Hotel bombing by the Irgun and Zionist militias, which killed, I think, 90-plus people. Talk about the fact that hundreds of British personnel were killed in the Mandate of Palestine, all the way up to the Declaration of Independence by Israel. Talk about the fact, Michael, this is really extraordinary, the sergeants' affair. There were two sergeants, two British sergeants. They weren't just killed and hanged by Zionist militias. Their bodies were booby-trapped, so that when they would be cut down by their comrades, they would also be harmed. Indeed, one of those men was. This was celebrated by somebody who would go on to become, Menachem Begin, who would go on to become the president of Israel, or the prime minister of Israel, effectively one of the most senior political figures in Israel. And yet, people who say these are wonderful political figures, this is a country whose morals are spick and span, beyond reproach. Apparently, Hamas and Hezbollah are abysmal. You can never work with them. You can never negotiate with them. What do you think the origins of Israel are? They killed people, and they got what they wanted. By the way, when those two sergeants were killed, they said, "We have to get out of here. These people are nuts. We are not.
Well said, Darren. He was actually the Foreign Secretary at the time. He was. You have to remember what the cabinet was like during that time, though. There was lots of competing and loud voices within that actual cabinet. It was kind of dysfunctional. Obviously, we've seen more dysfunctional in the last sort of 30-odd years now, last 40, basically since I've been alive. We've seen more dysfunctional governments. It was slightly dysfunctional during that time when Israel got established. We had lots of other things on our plate. We were still recovering from the war, still trying to build up our country. But yeah, lots of competing ideas within the cabinet during that time. Don't get me wrong, Attlee tried his best, but fucking hell, man, it was rough.
Capable of engaging with this. There is not, quote unquote, a political solution here because the violence is just so utterly extraordinary. We can't deal with it. So I find it strange that is what is inflicted on the Palestinian people. And yet, when they adopt the same tactics, by the way, I agree with you, Michael. I think breaking international law is bad, right? I think attacks on civilians is bad. Unarmed civilians is bad. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander? Or no, only one side can do it. The UN, the Palestinians didn't take it. They should have taken it. There's a lesson there. Well, if I said to Konstantin, why aren't you saying the same thing for Ukraine?
They couldn't at the time, Aaron. Sorry, you're a bit wrong on that one. They tried their best. They didn't want those the fucking settlement that the British were putting for. Trust me on this. They fucking tried, but our government didn't bloody well listen. And look at the state of it now. Blood is on our hands because of that government in Israel got established. It is deeply, deeply fucked up, in my opinion, that this happened because of how we ruled the mandate of Palestine. So no, quite a lot of this is on our hands, our government, our British state. Sorry, Aaron, you're quite good on some things, but on this one, you're a bit wrong. Okay, sorry.
There's a deal there from Russia. They'll just have the Donbass and Crimea. Why won't Ukraine take it? And if Ukraine won't take it, silly Ukraine. Well, Russia broke international law. Russia invaded the Donbass, right? So he's going to accept that in one instance, but not the other.
Stop disregarding Crimea, Aaron. Sorry. They wanted Crimea first, more than anything. Then he invaded the Donbass, right? I'm not happy with that situation either. Trust me on this. There's too many competing ideas and people currently in Ukraine and Russia along that borderline, especially in the Donbass. It is extremely screwed up now. I don't know how we can actually see this getting resolved other than forcing Putin to the negotiation table, but Christ, I have no idea how that's going to fucking happen. No idea whatsoever.
And of course, that's because I think for people like Konstantin, he views support for Palestine, criticism of Israel, he views that as quote unquote left coded. He doesn't like the left, therefore he must disagree with that position. And he's come to that conclusion, by the way, like many people, I think, without actually engaging with the history, without engaging with the genealogy of ideas, activism, action that leads to the creation of the State of Israel. This activism by Palestinians over decades has been destroyed. They should do the peaceful civil rights thing. They do. They did. They got shot. They got assassinated. So the whole conversation is utterly nonsensical in this country, partly because, Michael, we have an institutionally stupid media. Now, there is often very good reporting, but when you actually broadly try and find an in-depth, detailed, intelligent account of what has happened in this country, or this land, I should say, over the last 100 years, it's almost impossible to find. And people think, well, this is a 1,000-year-old religious feud. No, it's not. Jews and Muslims and, practicing Jews and Arabs lived in this part of the world quite peacefully, actually, in places like Jaffa, for a pretty long time before the foundation of the State of Israel. It's not thousands of years old. It's actually an outgrowth. It's a direct outgrowth of contemporary 19th century nationalism, of which Zionism is a manifestation. So that the basis of that debate, Michael, I think really rests upon a profoundly ignorant public discourse when it comes to Israel-Palestine. So talking about the details of he said, she said, do you agree with this particular point or that particular point? I think it's a hiding to nothing, because the basis, the foundation for these kinds of discussions are so idiotic that of course they don't make sense. So I think the left, or people that care about, not even the left, I mean, the fact that it is left-coded is a problem. You want the right, you want conservatives to think, actually, this is awful. We need a sensible solution here that preserves human rights and the rights to national self-determination. I think we should be resisting this impulse to say he's right on this point or she's wrong on this point. Ash made a great response to Konstantin, by the way, when she said that Israel doesn't recognize a two-state solution. Israel, in its history, has had zero interest in a two-state solution. The reason why the Oslo Accords are being conducted with the PLO and with Yasser Arafat is because there are other factions in Palestinian civil society offering really concrete plans about how to create a workable Palestinian state. But instead, what serves the Israelis was to circumvent those people. By the way, they didn't even work with the PLO. The PLO didn't have a formal delegation at Oslo. So you've got peace. There was a peace negotiations. The PLO weren't allowed to be there. The PLO had to work via, I believe, the Jordanian representatives. it's just a nonsense. Israel is not serious about a two-state solution. It never has been. It wants as much land as possible with as few Palestinians on it as possible. And that Greater Israel point, for many, meant that they wanted the West Bank and Gaza. But of course, it could also expand. There have been Israeli settlers in the Sinai. They were removed in the 80s after a peace agreement between Israel and Egypt. But at one point, that also was a part of a Greater Israel. So, like I said, I'll just finish on this point, Michael. The idea that the left support Palestine, therefore I'm right-wing, I must support Israel. Read some books on this stuff. Read his books about how this conflict has played out over 100 years. It's not that simple.
It's interesting, that Russia point, isn't it? Because I sometimes find it also goes the other way, where people are sort of saying, Ukraine, they should have signed the deal. And then when it comes to Palestine, they say, of course they shouldn't sign any deal. They need to be free from the river to the sea. I do think the inconsistencies go both ways. Although I'm not accusing you of that, Aaron, nor Ash.
Mother is. When he puts effort into it, yeah, but how it wasn't until his career actually took off.
As the official death toll in Gaza passes more than 42,000 who witnessed the carnage in Gaza's hospitals are speaking out. We begin today's show with a surgeon who volunteered at the European Hospital in Khan Yunis and wrote a devastating opinion piece in the New York Times, headlined "6."
Be right back. Give me a minute.
65 doctors, nurses, and paramedics, what we saw in Gaza. In a minute, we'll be joined by Dr. Feroz Sidhwa, who begins the piece writing, quote, "I worked as a trauma surgeon in Gaza from March 25th to April 8th. I volunteered in Ukraine and Haiti. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. I've seen violence and worked in conflict zones. But of the many things that stood out about working in a hospital in Gaza, one got to be nearly every day I was there, I saw a new young child who'd been shot in. At the time, I assumed this had to be the work of a particularly sadistic soldier located nearby. But after returning home, I met an emergency medicine physician who'd worked in a different hospital in Gaza 2 months before me. I couldn't believe the number of kids I saw shot in the head, I told him. To my surprise, he responded, patients who were shot in the head or the left side of the chest. The person who provided the scans was Dr. Mimi Saed, who works in Khan Yunis from August 8th to September 5th, and said the children usually arrived at the hospital either dead or in critical condition after suffering a single shot. On Tuesday, the New York Times opinion section editor issued a statement refuting claims circulating online that the images were altered, saying the editors had, quote, photographs to corroborate the CT scan images, but, quote, because of their graphic nature, we decided these photos of children with gunshot wounds to the head or neck were too horrific for publication. For more, we're joined by Dr. Feroz Sidhwa, the trauma and general surgeon who wrote this piece. He also spearheaded an open letter to President Biden and Vice President Harris, signed by 99 U.S. medical professionals who served in Gaza, testifying to the unprecedented scale of the healthcare catastrophe and calling for an immediate ceasefire and the end to all U.S. support for Israel. We are also joined in Chicago by Raja Musla, the country representative in Gaza of Med Global, a medical humanitarian aid group. She previously worked as a nurse at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Dr. Feroz Sidhwa, let's begin with you. Thank you for joining us in the studio. We heard from you in Gaza and spoke to you right when you came out. This is very significant, this New York Times op-ed. First, that the Times agreed to run it, and then the controversy
Yeah, the Times piece was interesting. Actually, the opinion section reached out, the visual opinion team reached out to me and asked me to write the piece. So we came up with the idea together, and that was after we wrote an open letter. Like you mentioned, we wrote one in October, but we also wrote one in July to the Biden administration. That was when the Times reached out to me and said, "Can we get information about exactly who wrote or who saw what in Gaza?" So the controversy that you mentioned about the images is just manufactured nonsense. It's no connection to reality whatsoever. These pictures there's no reason to doubt them at all. Furthermore, I've seen the full CT scans. I've seen the photos of the actual wounds on the children.
A little bit of lightness from all this death and destruction, which Israel are hell-bent on doing, obviously. This is called Mother's Pride. This is a plain loaf that Scottish people, like myself, absolutely love. It is brilliant. It is sturdy yet soft, and it is great for toasting, as you can see. And obviously, I've put far too much butter on it.
It's not surprising. These were common injuries in Gaza. I mean, like almost everybody saw the same thing. Everybody saw kids get shot in the head. Almost everybody saw severely malnourished children. So it seems like the piece has had an effect. It seems like it's making its way around, and people are seeing it, and they're kind of horrified by what they see, which they should be.
And then talk about the whole issue of whether to show the dead or dying children and their injuries.
Yeah, so that was never. So in the piece.
Good. Christ's sake. Oh. Oh. Christ's sake. Sorry about that.
Wrote it. That was never part of the plan, I guess you would say. But once all this nonsense about people saying the images are faked came out, the New York Times, I guess and I wasn't involved in that decision at all, but they had to decide whether or not to put, the picture they're talking about. She's probably a 4 or 5-year-old girl. Her eyes are closed. She has a breathing tube down, and she has a bullet wound right here. There's some brain matter that you can see on her hair. I'm a trauma surgeon, so I'm used to seeing things like that, but I can understand what they mean when they say that they're too horrific to publish. I personally wish that Americans could see more of what it looks like when a child is shot in the head, when a child is filleted open by bombs. I think it would make us think a little bit more.
I agree.
More about what we do in the world.
Did the Times also do a news piece on this, given the level of the video, of the scans you had, the pictures you had?
Yeah, we collected a lot of documentary evidence from people who are from healthcare workers who'd been in Gaza quite a bit, and all of them have quite a bit more. Everyone takes a lot of photographs and videos and things like that when they're there, and they're all date and location stamped. they're not faked. I don't know if the Times news section has reached out to other people because their names are mostly public. I don't know if they've reached out to them or not for specific comment about specific things. I have been contacted by, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say dozens of journalists since coming back from Gaza, news journalists saying that we want to publish about the children being shot in the head, the extent of malnutrition, especially small infants dying of malnutrition and dehydration. And they all say that they need they need a way of just kind of overwhelming their editors' skepticism. They need just a humongous mass of evidence. So like I know probably shouldn't name them, but I know journalists at the Post, at the Times, at BBC, the Washington Post, yes, who've been working on such stories for months, but still not out, despite having massive amounts of evidence.
Dr. Sidwell, as the Israelis claim unfortunate collateral damage of their bombing attempts to kill militants in Gaza.
You don't accidentally shoot someone in the head. You have to aim to do that. So if they're saying it was purely an accident, with the bombing, it's a little bit more complicated, obviously, but it's still deliberate. But you can't shoot someone accidentally in the head. You have to aim. You have to aim for the head. Obviously, ricochets do happen, but the way these children and other people have been assassinated, essentially shot in the head, that is a deliberate act. They are actually choosing to do that. It's incredibly difficult. You usually try to go for the centre of mass, the torso, this area here. Trying to hit the head because it's constantly, we always move, we always have little micro twitches and stuff because we move our head. We have to look around and see what's happening, stuff like that. Aiming for the head is a specialist skill. You have to be trained that, or some people have that innate skill, which frightens the hell out of me. You specifically aim for that. You're told to trained for hitting the centre of mass, and that's it. So deliberate act, going for the head. So if they're saying anything else other than that, they're talking nonsense. They're talking absolute bollocks.
What does this mean to you that so many children have been found to be shot in the head?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, excuse me. So, as physicians and nurses, we can't say that this particular child or that particular child was shot on purpose or by Israel or somebody else. That's not what we can possibly do. Any international has been around. For an entire year, on a daily basis, a child has been shot in the head in a place of 2 million people. It seems unlikely to me that that's an accident. If you look at the differential of killing between Ukraine and Israel, it depends on what you calculate.
Yes.
But the differential is literally hundreds of times. The rate of killing of children in Gaza is hundreds of times higher than it is in Ukraine. So it's very hard for me to believe that this is just a byproduct of a war that's being fought in otherwise just ways. I find that hard to believe.
And you mentioned other battles and other wars. Your experience in those other war zones. What is the difference from what you see aside from the children being shot in the head? Other specific differences between what's happening in Gaza and what you've seen in other places.
Well, there's a few. One is the massive level of destruction. Not only have the hospitals been attacked, the universities, it's getting down to the level of destroying the water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure, and concentrating an entire population on the Mawasi area, which is basically just the beach of Gaza. Oxfam wrote a report where they estimated that when there were 500,000, it's totally outrageous. I mean, those numbers don't exist anywhere else on the planet. Now there might be 1 million. Nobody really knows how many people have been pushed to the Mawasi. But these are just. It's been starved for a year, and the winter rains are coming, which are going to lift all the sewage and everything up out of the ground. Every sewage plant has been destroyed. 90% of the water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure has been destroyed, and the healthcare system has been destroyed. So, yeah, that's pretty unique in my experience.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you, you recently were supposed to speak at Columbia Medical School, but your event was canceled at the last minute. Could you talk about what happened?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it my event just because I wasn't the organizer, but but yeah, I was invited with Adam Hamawi, who is an American veteran and a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, and Dr. Mark Perlmutter, who is a orthopedic and hand surgeon, a Jewish American. I think he's been on Democracy Now! He's definitely been on Democracy Now! Before, and Lana, whose last name I just can't pronounce, who's a surgical nurse who also was working in Gaza, and she was actually one of the first internationals to go into Gaza. We had a medical talk planned. It was a technical exercise in surgical and medical care in a extremely difficult setting. It wasn't a political talk, but the organizers were smart. They recognized that it was very likely to be canceled at the last minute. It was canceled as we walked in the building, from what I can tell, and so they had organized a bookstore down the street to be available, so smart on their part. It's not surprising, but I think it's pretty shameful, to be perfectly honest.
I wanted to bring in addition to Dr. Feroz Sidwa, Raja Musla, who is the country representative in Gaza of the medical humanitarian aid group Med Global. Earlier this year, she worked as a nurse. Raja, thank you so much for being with us. You sheltered Al-Shifa, and of course, the head of Al-Shifa Hospital was arrested by the Israeli military. Can you describe what the situation was like then, when you were there, and what you understand as you deal with that?
Arresting that doctor was a deliberate act of denying healthcare to people who are literally dying, getting bombed and shot and crushed to death by their ongoing onslaught, right? Purely in their self-interest. Oh, horrible.
Every day, even as a nurse in Chicago, is happening now, and what you're calling for.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Sorry, actually, I have trapped at Shifa Hospital for more than 40 days. And what I'm witnesses in this period, actually, I can describe it as crimes because we receive at the hospital a huge number of injured persons coming to the emergency department, and the majority of the cases, unfortunately, women and children. And the massive of the injured for these cases was severe. It is the first time of my whole life I'm witness this kind of injury. Many people or many children come without legs, without arms, and even I'm witness a father hold his children. I'm witness the severity of the bombing that using during this war. The situation on Shifa Hospital was really very critical and very, very bad. There's no access to food because there's more than 80,000 IDPs inside the Shifa Hospital. There's no electricity. They cut the electricity, they cut the water, and so the situation was very bad. One of the cases that I will never, ever forget it, for a girl, her age is 10 years, she was burned, and she asked me to stay beside her, and I'm hold her hand until the moment. I will never, ever forget her burned skin at my hands. Until the moment I feel that. Until the moment I feel guilty because I did not obey or stay beside her in the bed because she requested that, and I did not do that. Until the moment I feel guilty when she asked me about her mother and father and sister, brothers, and I cannot respond to her request because the whole family has been killed during bombing her house. I will never forget the dogs were eating the dead body inside Shifa Hospital at the front of the emergency department. This will be stuck on my mind for the whole life. I will never, ever forget a boy. After the operation, his leg has been amputated, and he asked me to move his leg. What I should respond for a kid, his age is 9 years, when he asked me, just move my leg. I'm pretend that I move his leg, and I'm ask him, is that okay? He said, yes. In this moment, I feel like my heart is broken because the suffering of my people inside Shifa Hospital and in the whole Gaza Strip. Now the situation on the ground, I'm receive calls from my colleague from the north of Gaza. There's no access to food, no access to water, no access to fuel for the hospitals to operate the centers or to operate the hospitals here in North Gaza. The situation is very, very critical. I'm here in Chicago just to send my people a message. We need ceasefire now. We need ceasefire now. Enough is enough. More than 1 year, and the people inside Gaza suffering from and taste many types of death. Enough is enough. 365 days, and the people inside Gaza taste all kind of death. I'm witness the horrible of this war. I'm witness 4 wars before, and this war is completely different. We are a human being. We are not numbers. We have the right to receive health care inside Gaza. We have the right to rise up our children. We have the right to return back our lives, our dignity. We have the right to rebuild our universities, our schools. We are a human being, and we are not numbers.
And Raja Musla, I wanted to ask you the interactions you had, if any, with the Israeli soldiers. How did they treat the medical personnel, especially those who had come from other countries?
Yeah, actually now we send the doctors from outside Gaza through Karm Abu Salim. But, you know, they prevent the Palestinian people, even they are American, to enter Gaza. So all the people we send from outside Gaza go through Karm Abu Salim because of Rafah border now is completely closed.
And finally, Dr. Faraz Sidwa, as we hear this devastating description from Raja Musla, who worked at Al-Shifa and is a Palestinian-American nurse, comes from Gaza City. As you talk about the spaces being closed in this country, I mean, the lack of follow-up on your piece, when you try to speak at, for example, Columbia, it's shut down. You have to go to a local independent bookstore. And yet the Times did publish this column and what it's meant, the kind of response that you've gotten. You haven't stopped since you've come back as you organize with doctors and nurses and medical personnel what's happening there in Gaza. If Israel doesn't, the U.S. will cut off weapons, not this week or next week or the next week, but in a month.
Yeah, so I think the Times piece is significant in that it might represent a shift in elite opinion about just, like Raja said, enough is enough. I mean, how much more destroyed do they want Gaza to be? And that opens up some possibilities for us to be able to do things that can actually help the people of Gaza, and not just Gaza, but elsewhere as well. Like you mentioned, the Times of Israel, there was a letter leaked apparently to the Times of Israel that the Biden administration sent on Sunday. Excuse me, to Iran. It needs to start immediately, but has up to 30 days to improve the humanitarian situation. And they pointed out some interesting things in that letter. They said that in September, the lowest amount of aid that has that's gone into Gaza in the past year went in September, which means the least amount that has ever gone into Gaza. Of course, the Israelis will deny that, but it's nevertheless quite obviously true. And they raised the possibility of what they called consequences under NSM 20 and other American laws, meaning the laws that prevent the provision of arms to human rights abusers. Well, I think you played a Reuters journalist pointing out earlier.
They're not doing that. It's good that you brought that up, Dr. Sidwa. They're not doing it. They're actually contravening their own fucking legislation, which is very telling, in my opinion, really. So why should we listen to them? That's why we're all shouting at the American empire, in my opinion. Only of course, okay? They are supporting the destruction and murder of... We need to metaphorically slap Biden and, as a consequence, Harris, obviously. Stop funding this genocide and tell Netanyahu to behave himself, right? It's a good way to start. Just tell them to stop selling them their toys, essentially, so they can actually so they stop murdering people, essentially. I am a realist, of course. I know that's not going to happen, at least under extreme pressure. We just need to build up our voices and say to Biden and Harris and Walz.
There's no reason to wait 30 days. It's not like Israel hasn't been attacking Gaza for a year. So this has been going on for, like Russia said, long enough. We can stop sending them arms tomorrow, and the U.S. can lead an arms blockade against not just Israel, but Israel and all Palestinian and Lebanese armed
Fuck. That was bad. Anyway, here's him on Yusuke.
Hello again.
Hello again.
Those of us who live in Britain are so used to seeing the history of our country twisted and distorted so that black people can be inserted. And
he really doesn't like black people. He really doesn't like black people.
Period, or even Stone Age.
It's actually kind of funny.
But we hardly notice it anymore. I don't propose to go into the possible reasons for what
I'm immensely entertained by this man. I'm starting to see why.
We're all aware of it. The most well-known image from Tudor London these days is probably John Blank, the black trumpet player who lived in the city for a few years at the beginning of the 16th century. The idea that Queen Charlotte was black.
Mad Cat wants to collab. Hang on.
On the television set in the 16th century.
Hello. I don't know how this whole thing works. I don't know how to collab. I hit accept. I don't know what I'm doing.
Am I here?
I hit accept. I don't know what I'm doing.
Give me a second.
There's that thing. No one tell Mad Cat that I did not hit accept because I did. So,
That's okay. Don't worry. I'm here anyway.
What's up?
Let's see.
Oh boy. Mad Cat asked the collab. No, I did. I'll go into. No, I hit the accept button. Okay, I hit the accept button. We're gonna snooze ads. I did hit the accept button. I don't know what's happening.
I knocked Mad Cat back, okay? Oh, that's why. Okay. It's not supported on my browser.
What is going on?
Ha! Can you hear me now?
I knocked Mad Cat back, okay? Oh, that's why. Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. It's not supported on my browser just yet.
No problem. I use Firefox.
The fuckers.
Hopefully.
God damn it.
I hope you enjoy your ads.
Yeah, this isn't gonna work. No, I hit the button. No.
I'm on Firefox. What the fuck?
Okay. Well, I let Mad Cat know what was up. Hopefully.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Enjoy your ads in one. Yes, I hit the button. Accept. Yeah, it just isn't gonna work. No, I hit the button.
It's okay. Don't worry.
No. Don't say mean things about me. I'm trying to make this work.
Don't worry about it.
It just doesn't work on my computer.
Who's complaining about it?
No. All right, we're gonna keep going.
Which has
I feel bad.
Played by a black man. We see it happening and have most of us given up complaining about it. It's just
Like women or black people. What the fuck?
haven't yet been exposed.
Don't worry about it. I'm worrying about it.
Version of history where the most significant roles were always allocated to black people.
What?
After all,
What?
Japan has no history of immigration, and they
Yeah,
are
they do.
very proud of their own history.
Wait, yeah, they have history of immigration. What the fuck are you talking about, old man? Listen here, old man. There's definitely a history of immigration in Japan.
Recently, there was great excitement because it was to be set in feudal Japan.
We'll try again later. Okay.
The company Ubisoft, which produced and researchers,
Yeah, trust the
world they created was historically accurate.
no Assassin's Creed game has been historically accurate.
A major computer game set in feudal
Correct.
Japan.
Yes, they haven't.
The Japanese were considerably less enchanted when they learned that the protagonist in Assassin's
Literally
Creed
the exact
Shadows
opposite.
was to
What?
be a samurai who also happened to be a black homosexual.
What?
Now, of course, in this country, we are used to that kind of foolishness.
Is Yasuke a black homosexual?
Out a new game.
Is this the new stuff?
I don't know if I played all the way through the second one yet, and I know the next one's come out next year.
This row has not been spoken of much in the West.
8 ads, motherfucker. Enjoy your fucking ads, Babylon.
Which mention it in the description to this video. The Japanese government is now becoming embroiled in the dispute.
Are they?
It is said that their history.
You're Is a number rapper? Fucking come get me. Come get me, motherfucker.
Get over it.
Take me out.
That's one of the things they actually educate people about. They actually tell them the history.
The protagonist of the new Assassin's Creed game. As to the question which many Japanese people are now asking,
no one told Avalon and Babylon what I said. They'll never know until they watch the VOD.
You shouldn't be talking about this, by the way. You're not a Japanese man.
Answer myself.
And I doubt you've even played this game.
Increasingly, and that random black people are indeed being stuck in all over.
Random black people? Random black people are just being added to things. I can't understand why random black people are being added to things. All right, expecting racist old grandpa to get me to cackle like that. Okay, we have Jolly Heretic here with why are criminals so ugly?
Why is it right? That
Usually because they're poor.
You think of people that are right ugly
Do
bastards.
it. Do
why
it.
Why is it that if you were going to direct a play or make a film, then you would use right ugly bastards to play the criminals?
What?
Well, the answer is that on
That's white people. I don't know what you're talking about, Register Production. We only survived in exactly one way. Oh my goodness, Mad Cat, thank you for the subby for Avalon to Babylon.
Now today I want to look into something that I think is rather interesting, which is that criminals tend to be uglier than the general population. Before I do that, I want to remind you, please remember to go over and subscribe
They're ugly as fuck.
to my Substack, Jolly Heretic.
They're ugly as fuck.
In which I put videos that are far too controversial to put on YouTube, in which I have
Oh my god, what could be what is a controversial video to this dude? I'm concerned. What could possibly be a controversial video?
have on average faces that are less symmetrical
than
are those of the general population.
Dang.
And also faces.
Dang, it'd be a shame if I didn't have Stream Manager open right now.
Attractive. Now, why is this going to be the case? Well, the key reasons are there are two things that essentially.
It'd be a damn shame if I didn't have this open right now.
And the other is psychopathology. Studies indicate that there is a weak.
Wait, what is this? What is the other clip? Cherry Bab clip something? Dark Ash clip something?
On average,
clip something.
With low IQ are less
what the
able
fuck?
To anticipate the consequences of their actions.
Raptor
ain't
impulsive.
They're more violent. They're lower in basically altruism and agreeableness. They're more likely to commit crime.
Monster Efforts by Igloo.
Personality, that's to say, being selfish and nasty.
How do you guys get these good clips? Fuck.
Extremely unpleasant and manipulative. That is associated with having an asymmetrical face. And psychopathic personality predicts committing crime.
Wait,
now,
what?
Do these relationships exist?
How do you?
Well,
what?
Of harsh Darwinian selection, what we were selecting for.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Darwinian! It's for things that are not mammal. They're not us. Have you never read
We're just making shit up.
Origin of Species?
I wasn't ready.
That are pro-social, more likely to go with other people. They're less likely to be cast out by the band. They're less likely to be killed. They're less likely to be executed. And so we were.
And we'll have a damn good evening.
Oh, hello, Shara.
2% of the male population each generation, and those people would have been those that would commit crime. That's young men, and they would have been psychopathic, and they would have been low in IQ.
And my god!
These things
annoy me so much.
What we're selecting for.
Go back and learn history and biology, you fucking wanker.
Pro-social personality. So these get bundled together with other things that we are.
Why is he talking so fast?
Such as genetic, mental, and.
It's so weird. You're trying to get as much of this out as possible.
What that means.
He's trying to get as much of this information out as possible.
One, you simply have a high gravitational load, and this is reflected in an asymmetrical face because nature likes symmetry. Or two, that you have a relatively weak.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, stop talking about the golden rule for crying out loud.
We're just having.
It doesn't work like that.
He's talking so fast, but also apparently something about loads, and I don't want to elaborate because I don't know what it was, but it sounds fucking hilarious. All I heard was low.
Maintain a symmetrical phenotype, and so if you
not that I love racist, it sounds like Reno Redhead likes racist guys. I don't fucking understand.
Low intelligence, and studies have indicated this, by the way, that low intelligence goes together with being having a genetically poor immune system, being genetically sick, and you are more likely to be genetically psychopathic. So this is why there is this relationship between low IQ, high psychopathy.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense though.
And ugliness, and
just an ugly.
Precisely because these selection professions have weakened with the Industrial Revolution and the rise
He's
of
just talking.
better medicine and all this sort of thing. But ultimately, things that are genetically selected for become bundled together. These were genetic health, which becomes bundled together with being.
How much Adderall does it take? He took a fucking full stack of Adderall before doing this video. I have no clue what he's even talking about now, and it's kind of hilarious.
Less physically attractive, and because they have those mental traits, they're more likely to
This is so wild.
Are uglier than the general population.
Oh, okay, we're just that's it. All right, he was fucking ready to be out of that, done with that one. Holy fuck! I have no idea what he was talking about. He was fucking ready to be done though. Redeem hydrate. I will hydrate at the end of this.
Since the United States.
Okay. This is from PaxTube. This is the newest video from PaxTube. Why American foreign wars are worse than we thought. It's like 30. That's 30 minutes of content, and it's gone to 5. Yeah, dude, it's fucking wild.
Since the United
Dude
States
slammed a whole pack of fucking Adderall before coming in here.
In war for almost its entire existence. Since World War II, especially, America has been.
It turns out we kind of suck, buddy.
War economy. There's always been a vocal debate about position, whether it be the Spanish-American War, the World Wars, the Vietnam War, the War on Terror, or continued involvement.
It's his fault. He's just fucking downing it all to do these fucking videos. I swear.
In South America, the
American That's my wheelhouse.
And continues to meddle in the affairs of dozens of countries and has even overthrown governments. The same has been done in the Middle East. Look no further than the overthrow of Libya's Muammar Gaddafi in 2011.
We came, we saw, he died.
Okay. Wonderful.
Of this is that foreign interventions are usually unpopular. Most Americans never wanted America to be a globalist empire. During the Vietnam and Iraq wars, millions of Americans protested in the largest anti-war protest.
Was that what Sunday teacher? Well,
foreign interventions are so unpopular that presidential candidates often run on keeping America out of war, even when they intend to go back on their promises.
That's not what globalism is. Excuse you, Reno Redhead. Globalism is when the Jews run everything.
Examples. Many of these wars ended disastrously.
Not my finest moments.
Or the people of the country
says
being
Shauna.
invaded by the U.S.
Well, Shauna, stop killing people.
Some of these wars were launched on completely false pretenses.
Surprise.
In this video, I'll be explaining why America's foreign wars are worse than you thought. The world is getting more chaotic every day. That's why I've partnered with this video sponsor, Private
Oh, fucking ads? Really? Ads all the way through this? Fucking excuse you?
When and wars, there's a key fact in geography. Something that makes the country is from a geographic linked by two huge oceans. Its neighbors to the north and south, Canada and Mexico, are friendly.
Are you still here, Shara?
The US is full of natural resources. Little space.
Hey, that's what we're doing.
Had rival empires 800,000 on their border in square miles. People aren't crammed together, and they have plenty. This is what led them to compete.
But whatever.
European empires of none of these and sometimes
exactly true.
America is
we do that still.
It doesn't have to fight anyone to be strong. Despite this, American leaders
hey, that's what we're doing.
Had engaged in unnecessary foreign aggression.
True, based.
Part of human history.
PaxTube being based for a second.
There will never be a utopian future where all war ceases to exist. War can even be just under certain circumstances.
Wait, what? When?
But as
where?
we'll see
How?
with the
what?
US, many of its wars were
impossible.
Simply not necessary.
Literally impossible.
America's foreign policy has come in different stages. It started in the colonial era.
Globalist was Isaiah 2:4.
It
It talks about destroying all the weapons and forgetting how to do war. Hell yeah. That's a fucking tight line too. Oh god. Holy fuck.
President George Washington famously warned against entangling alliances
yes, I do
that
remember.
could draw the country into unnecessary wars. But the first signs of America's aggression to Europe came with the Monroe Doctrine.
I'm on Firefox. I would have to log out and log in through a different browser, Matt Cat.
To be in the US government's sphere of influence.
We got to plan it a bit better. It can't be spontaneous. If it's gonna be spontaneous like that, I just have to eat the fact that I have to use like Chrome or
this
something.
Flew in the face of European empires, many of which still had colonial interests.
I'll see if I can get
in
it
the New
fixed
World.
by next time.
But to be fair to the creators of the Monroe Doctrine, they agreed to it on the basis that America would in turn stay out of old world affairs. As we'll see, that promise will later be reneged on. This led into the next era of American foreign policy, which came after the country industrialized and recovered from the Civil War.
Is that bollocks? I don't know enough about it.
The open imperialism.
But I'm assuming this dude's lying,
The
so...
Spanish-American War is widely considered by historians to be the beginning of the American Empire. In 1898, Spain had been fighting to put down a revolt in its province of Cuba, which it had held for almost 500 years. The US government used the opportunity to launch a war against Spain, who was much smaller and less prepared for war than America. Spain had never really done anything to provoke America's aggression.
That's bollocks.
The war was justified from the American perspective through exaggerated stories of Spanish atrocities against the Cubans. The explosion of the USS was also blamed on Spain to stoke support for war.
Back on desktop? Prove it, Shauna. Prove it.
Investigations later confirmed the ship sunk from an internal explosion, not an external one. It's basically agreed on today that support for this war was created through
racially charged term? Oh, it totally is. Reneged, yeah.
Journalists like Joseph Pulitzer
I wonder what it could be
and William
referring to.
Hearst ginned up support for war with false stories and propaganda. Spain was suppressing a violent rebellion in its territory as any other nation would, yet it was treated as the devil incarnate. The American ruling class supported the war because they found it beneficial to their interests. The official explanation was that Cuba and Spain's colonies would be brought freedom. The war ended with America seizing Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. This war set the stage for the next
Jolly
century.
Hill, I take your talking
It was the beginning
bollocks.
of trends that have characterized most American wars since. Atrocity propaganda and false flags being used to justify interventionism. If a war could be justified to the public based on real pretenses, false ones would be invented. Simultaneously, this was the
You
first
spelled
time
it I?
the
Yeah.
US
I wonder why.
undermined
No! No, not emote only mode!
The next major intervention
Shauna's gone
the
rogue.
establishment embarked on was
Shauna's gone rogue, chat.
I did an entire video on this.
Oh,
if
no.
you'd like to know more. To quickly recap,
I've captured Shauna.
leaders loaned vast sums of money to the Entente, mainly Britain and France.
You got me there.
Engaged
Fuck.
in blatant war profiteering. The sinking of the Lusitania, supposedly a civilian ship carrying Americans, was used as a major pretext for war. In reality,
It was targeted.
the ship was
Done it
carrying
deliberately.
I was owned. An emote. It's wait. Is it still emote only?
Offered a defensive
Over
alliance
there,
with
right?
Mexico in the case America joined against Germany. In other words, Germany already believed America was joining the war before this telegram was sent. The consequences of America's involvement in World War I were catastrophic for human history. The tens
In
of
World War
millions of
I?
Americans who stood against the war were
Yeah.
silenced. Next
Excuse
was
me?
World War II.
Eugene Debs,
Many
yes.
today believe that America sat back in isolationism
Wait.
until Japan decided
We
to
did,
randomly
though.
attack it.
We
But
did.
The reality
Yes.
is much different.
Is it? No, it's
Well,
not.
they
We
just-
literally did.
Isolationist in the 1930s. The public leaned toward isolationism, but not the government itself.
We literally did,
Like
though.
in World War I, opposition to joining Ford even refused to manufacture war materials.
Hey, I wonder why
for the
Henry
British.
Ford decided to be
Father
neutral.
Charles Coughlin, one of the
It's
most
almost like
popular
Henry Ford was a
radio
fucking
broadcasters in
Nazi
America,
himself.
railed against those trying to get America into another European war. However, despite this popular sentiment,
Oh my God,
the
guys.
Roosevelt administration had other ideas. Professor Bear F. Bromoller of Harvard University wrote in The Myth of American Isolationism that the American government was engaging in undeclared warfare against Germany and Japan months before Pearl Harbor. This included fighting German ships and putting a full embargo on Japan. He writes, only Hitler's
Out of war.
unwillingness to provoke formal American opposition kept the U.S. out of the war on paper.
Wait, what
Likewise,
hang on.
America's Lend-Lease program to the Soviet
Dargesh,
Union
hello, thank you so much.
Yeah.
months before the
Thanks,
Pearl Harbor
Shanna.
attack. Billions
To
of
pause my
dollars
stream,
in war
no pressure, of
materials
course. Yeah,
helped
guys,
the
go help
Soviet
Madcap for a
Union during
second.
the critical years of
Can you hear both me and
We're getting into
Raptor?
parts of my knowledge that I don't know
historical
about.
record shows is that it
But I
was
know
Germany
PAX 2 is going to be long. Be
during
fucking
World
long.
War II,
Yeah.
It was the U.S.
Wait.
government moving for war with them.
Yes. Wait. Yeah. Because Germany knew we had fucking Nazi sympathies. So
Yes,
they were hoping
they
to
did.
bring us into the Axis. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Unlike what propaganda shows
There was
like the
there was Nazis in America, for
You
Christ's
go fuck a
sake.
cactus? Yeah.
The Axis had neither the ability nor the desire.
You
to
can hear
conquer and divide up
Raptor. Okay,
America.
thanks, Dargesh.
The Japanese and
No, they
German
were looking for
governments only
allies.
attacked the U.S. as a last resort. This is far from the common but incorrect view that America was an oblivious, innocent observer of World War II.
No, they were literally just ignoring World War II.
This applies to both world wars. America didn't wake up.
Yeah, it
from
turns out
coma
America
and
just
finally
like
destroyed
ignored
Europe.
everybody else
It
around them.
actively played a role in bringing about that destruction. After the Allied victory in the war, the Cold War began. The Allies and Soviets, who had spent almost a decade working together, now turned against each other. What followed was decades of American global interventionism. Any
That's not
government
good.
in Africa or Latin America that swayed from U.S. interests was targeted with regime change.
That happened a
The
lot, yeah.
largest and most
I just
disastrous
punched
of
my microphone
America's
again.
interventions was
It
the
did,
infamous
yes.
Vietnam War.
Hey!
There was once again a false flag attack to justify the invasion.
We literally
Gulf
wanted
of
to.
Tonkin
Oh
incident
fuck! Oh
was
fuck! Oh
framed
fuck!
by the U.S. government
Well,
to be
I'm
an
dead.
attack on an American ship by the North Vietnamese. In reality, no such attack ever happened.
I thought I was
Though
dead.
it never occurred, the event was used by President Lyndon B. Johnson as reason for war. The war
Oh,
was
okay. I
also
forgot it was
justified
only
through
Lyndon
fear.
B. Johnson who
The
made that
idea
war.
if any country in the world became communist,
Nope, that's
it would make
bollocks.
other
Yeah, because we like to think we have a big stick,
Over
man.
60,000 Americans died and 150,000
And we
were
lost.
wounded.
We
On the
lost.
Vietnamese
Yeah, we fucked
the
up.
American
We lost.
realized the war, and the enormous backlash to the military and U.S. military has been an all-volunteer force.
Think he talks softly?
But
Yeah.
as we'll see,
Giggity.
that hasn't stopped the intervention.
Nothing about me is soft except for my
By the late
stomach.
stages of the Cold War in the 1980s, American
And my
diplomacy
cheeks.
entered a new era. From here on out, it would become dominated by groups known as the neoconservatives and the neoliberals. The groups have slight differences, but they agree on the
We
key
don't.
objective.
We
Use
don't.
the
We touch it
American
all
empire
exactly.
as a Frankenstein's monster for war, with total disregard for
Yeah,
Americans.
the
or
military-industrial
people in other
complex
countries.
has been a
Many
blight
are
on our
Zionists
society
with close
forever.
ties to Israel, and they bend American foreign policy to be more in line with Israel's objectives.
True.
They were and remain happy to use either the Democratic
Free
or
Palestine.
Republican Party to achieve this. They first pulled America into the Gulf War in 1990 when Iraq.
Oh wait, he's not doing this in the way that is.
After Iraq was defeated, American-led sanctions put on the country killed
Even
around
after
1
Iraq was
million
defeated, but Iraq is still there.
most
We've
of which
not
were
won
children.
one war, by the way.
U.S. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright said killing them all was a worthy
Stretch?
price to
I
pay
refuse.
for America and Israel's goals.
Rejected.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima.
I think this is a very hard
Ow, my hip.
choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Roll the dice. Oh no.
Then, in the early 2000s,
Oh, it's a gamble.
America began the so-called War on Terror and invaded Iraq.
All right, you ready for the gamble?
Invading Iraq was infamously justified
fuck's
through claims
sake.
of non-existent weapons and population
Activation.
of Iraq collapsed.
So let's go.
And groups like ISIS gained power. Meanwhile,
5.
in Libya in 2011,
What's
the
5?
government of Muammar Gaddafi was toppled,
Let's
and the
see.
country plunged into civil
1,
war
2,
due to American intervention.
3, 4.
Simultaneously,
Oh, I got my own. I got a double stretch. All right.
funded, leading
I got
to
a
civil
double
war
stretch.
there. It should be emphasized that the
Nope, it was
American-backed
just me.
civil
I
wars
know
in
it was just
Libya
you.
and
I see my
Syria
audio levels
are
there,
part of
Shauna.
what propelled mass immigration into Europe.
I got a double stretch. All right.
If you're an American who doesn't like mass immigration, you must oppose these foreign interventions.
No?
The beneficiaries of all
What
of
the
this
fuck?
were the military-industrial complex and the state of Israel. It certainly wasn't the
Okay, this is literally just the
To this
Jews.
day, has cost Americans $8 trillion and suffered as a result. The American establishment justifies its foreign interventions by claiming they're in America's interests.
Literally
By this, they
just
mean
the
the American
Jews. Okay.
system's interests. American corporations.
Question marks? Yeah.
And suffered as a result. The American establishment justifies its foreign interventions by claiming they're in America's interests.
Literally
By this, they
just
mean
the
the American
Jews. Okay.
system's interests. American corporations.
Question marks?
The
Yeah.
American state. The American bureaucracy.
He's saying
Common
Israel's
American
behind all of
citizens
this.
May or may not benefit.
Literally, he's saying that,
Publicly, wars are
that
dressed in
Israel's literally behind
idealistic
all of
language
this.
about freedom and democracy. But in actuality, it's just about brute power. Popular elected governments are overthrown without a second thought as quickly as so-called dictatorships. And people whose country is wrecked obviously don't benefit. The scholar John Mearsheimer compares America to a type of crusader state, invading other countries abroad to spread its ideology. But I do think
Yeah, we
an
did it poorly
asterisk should be
anyway.
put on this.
We did it very
The American
poorly.
system does use democracy as a weapon, but it also abandons it the moment it becomes inconvenient. American officials wave ideology around as a club, but history has shown it's just used to
This guy literally is blaming,
markets to expand into.
blaming literally. It's wild.
The easiest type of government for the American state to bend to its interests. Once a country is a liberal democracy, international capitalists can buy off their politicians.
Our frames, just check
At the
mine.
same
I'm
time, hate
I don't
speech
know.
laws are
I think it's
implemented
based
that
off of your.
ensure it's illegal to speak
I'm pretty sure
out
it's based
or
off of
organize
your
against the rule of
setup,
ideology.
Mad
The
Cat.
country is then at Washington's mercy.
If you have my stream
See
open, you're
modern
probably
Germany
using
and
more
Britain,
bandwidth.
which are destroying their economies by unquestionably following Washington's orders.
Well, that sounds like a
If
bad
America
thing.
were open
Maybe we
about
should
its material goals, that
incentivize
would be
trade.
one thing. But it's a country that paradoxically is an empire that claims to be against all empires. It refuses to acknowledge the legitimate
He's not
interests
wrong.
of other countries, even its own allies.
He is not wrong.
We see this in the hyper-moralizing language American leadership uses against any rival.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil.
Oh God, I forgot about
threaten
this.
the peace of the world.
No.
Realpolitik is the
I forgot about
concept
this.
that nations will act pragmatically in their own
Raptor.
best
Yes, I just answered.
Ah! Come back. God damn it, come back.
Shit.
Everyone else in the world can't.
Let me
This
check my shit.
itself is a form of imperial strategy.
I didn't
Even
notice
in
any
attempt
drop. I'm
at
not seeing any
world
drop on
domination.
my technical side.
Meanwhile, the Israel lobby is also an element of American foreign policy. That
Our
can't
frame
be
drops
ignored.
a way
The
of
Zionist
life
lobby
on
was
Twitch. Frame
instrumental in
drops.
pulling America into the Middle East and the war
I
on
don't know
terror.
anything about that.
This influence
I'll be
remains
honest.
extremely strong today, as
I only have
AIPAC
a-
pours
I-
tens of millions of dollars to knock anti-Israel
let me check what's going on.
politicians out of office. They have many
Let me go to
voting
the
enablers
technical
in the
side of things.
neoconservatives and the neoliberals they work with.
If this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain.
I've already hit
is
accept,
our
but it won't
commitment to our
accept. I
aid,
already told you
our
this.
Cooperation with Israel.
America's support for Israel's endless wars and endless war crimes has ended the debate about what really drives American foreign policy.
I'm not
It's
seeing
not about human
frame
rights
rate
or
drops.
international law. And
anywhere
it never
else.
was. As I make this video, the US government is unconditionally backing Israel as it breaks every international law the US claims to be the guardian of. All of America's moral denunciations of its rivals
Are other
look
people having errors with
absolutely
my stream?
laughable compared to what it
What about the
allows
stream? Because
Israel to do. Benjamin
what did I
Netanyahu-
just?
Oi, come back. Give me Raptor, you fucker. What? Piss off. Come back!
Log in
as representing
through
them or their interests.
Firefox or Chrome,
This is why the American
which I'm not logged
establishment
into
has
at all.
resorted to using proxy warriors to do its bidding. Even if another war was declared,
The
things
US is
look
anti-Christian
grim
my
for the
ass,
American
yeah.
Military. It's shrinking by the year.
He's just
as young
lying.
people no longer have any interest in joining. As of the latest polls, fewer than 10% of eligible youth want to enlist. Those who want to join,
I don't want to
do so for
enlist. Fuck
financial
that shit.
reasons,
That's a lot of work.
Not because they believe in the American project. Enormous portions of
It's doing
American
automatically
youth
now?
are
Okay,
also
good.
unfit for service due to drug abuse, obesity, and mental health
Huh.
problems.
Huh.
It
Hey, buddy,
shows
that
the
may
horrendous
that sounds like
domestic
a
policies
problem.
America has pursued over the last century are coming back
Yeah.
to bite it, and the results aren't pretty. This comes as the Ukraine war has turned against NATO and the US despite hundreds of billions worth of weapons being sent. Between Ukraine and Israel, America's international system has lost both moral legitimacy and efficacy. The
Wow.
very future of America is currently
The very
unclear.
future of America,
People
bro.
under 40 filtered through a Zionist lens. This will pose complications for the American-Israel relationship.
I'm
in the
so
future.
confused with that last point he
The
just
lesson
made.
we
What the
can all
fuck?
take away from this history is that war propaganda is real, and even smart people can fall for it. The American state has proven itself uniquely
I've shut it off now?
dishonest
Okay.
with the false flag attacks and atrocity propaganda it's
I'm not sure
used
what
to
happened, I'm
justify its
sorry.
wars through history. For a long time, Americans felt like they benefited from their government's reckless wars abroad. But that belief is becoming more ridiculous and less
What the
common
fuck, man?
every year. America already has all the land and resources it needs to be powerful. Its failure to use this land and resources effectively is the fault of its own system.
Really,
not
it
some
is.
foreign boogeyman. While
It is a
wars
fault of
and
its own
interventions
system.
have been bad, we also shouldn't forget the countless American men and women who opposed the conflicts and stood up for what's right, even in the face of overwhelming opposition.
Oh
from
no,
others.
he stood up for what's right?
They will stand as a shining example for us all.
Who's they?
Forever. This
Who?
has been Pax, and thank you so
He didn't really
much
say
for
anything.
watching. Please leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on all
Russia. Do you want to do? We have a couple of options here for Forgotten History. We got Truth About Hurricane Helene, Conspiracy Revealed. We got Giants in America. We got, oh, this is from Democracy Now! That's an unfortunate pause. Which one do you guys want? We'll end on this. I'm kind of leaning towards Giants. But also, I want to see if this is just a conspiracy theory. I want to see if this one's a conspiracy theory. This one's a giant. I don't know what this one's a giant about. Tomorrow's teaching? That was not a suggestion, Dargesh. that was not on my docket, Dargesh. Right now, there's no new episodes. They used to release them every week. They haven't released them every week. Now there's no new episodes. They used to release them every week. They haven't released them every week. Whichever's gayer, they're both pretty gay. This ain't the old man. This isn't the old man. Who's this?
Shadows that stretch across the tapestry of human imagination into the realm of giants. Those colossal beings whose presence loom large
For a science type person, let's
folklore
fucking
of the culture around the
go.
world. But today's focus will be on the Americas. of giants that once roamed their lands. We will delve into the intriguing legends passed down through generations.
BRB comments? No worries.
The Choctaw
Take your time.
and the Comanches of the United States into the Manta of Peru, uncovering the captivating stories.
This guy, he looks like he eats Legos. What the fuck? This isn't the old man. This isn't the Crypt Keeper. Who is this? I came here for the Crypt Keeper to talk to me and read Wikipedia articles, not whatever this is. This seems like fake Forgotten History at this point. He looks like he eats Legos. Look at his jaw. There's no way your jaw looks like this and you don't eat Legos. Okay? There's no way you have a chin like that and you don't eat Legos. Do you need me to go further into detail about this, Reno Redhead? Because I can. Plural of Lego is Lego. It's Legos. I'll make Dargash fucking eat Legos. Lego my ego. Oh. But legally speaking, it is like lying, chat. Chat, Dargash is lying. It's a Lego brick. You've all.
Yes.
I knew this day would come. I knew this day would come. I now have to eliminate all of you guys.
Try it.
I'm sorry. It's
Bring
for
it
the
on.
best. You've.
Oh God, I love you desperately, Raptor, but if you come after me, I'll destroy you.
Old, but you've all betrayed me. All of you. Every single one.
No, we haven't.
Fucking, there you go.
Stop it. I'm here trying to support you.
Do it, Birch. You won't do it. You know what? You know what? I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it right. There we go.
Cushman's 1899 book, History of the Choctaw, Chickasaw,
I warned you.
and Natchez Indians. The tradition of the Choctaws spoke of a race of giants that once roamed the now state of Tennessee, and with whom their ancestors fought when they arrived in Mississippi after their migration from the west.
It's part of their mythology and their religion and their way of life.
The fuck did you even do? I silenced a disagreeer in chat.
Describe all white people, but it originally referred specifically.
All right, fine, fuck, goddamn. I was wrong.
That the Choctaw killed them.
Look at this AI artwork. Oh my god. This AI artwork is insane.
Have several stories about mammoths in the Nahulu that surprisingly turned out to be true.
Did they? Hang on.
Southern and western
Hang on. No, did they?
That's bollocks.
Discoveries of mammoth skeletons.
Have there?
Large human-like bones.
I don't believe this.
Of these creatures.
I don't believe.
Good for you, Raptor. You shouldn't be believing it. Such a bollocks.
Tri-Plains gave the following account of an ancient race
You are all wrong.
race of white men, 10 feet tall,
All of you.
far more rich and powerful than any white people living now.
So you're wrong? No, all of you are wrong. I'm the right one.
Extending from the rising to the setting.
It's me. I'm the one that's right.
Climbed the summits of mountains,
I can't read that, Dargash.
cities situated in the valleys. They excelled at
I am the right one.
either before or since, in all manners of cunning handicraft. They were brave.
Dargash, don't start spamming.
Ruling over the land they had wrestled.
Don't start spamming.
Possessors.
Who are you, Vosh? Yes.
Compared with the pale faces of the present day were pygmies in both art and arms.
Boxing your own chat? Fuck yeah, I will.
That when this race
I'll
of mounds still visible today.
Okay,
This
wait.
account was documented by Dr. Donald.
Wait, how is this related to fucking
researcher and
giants?
author of books on Native American. endowed with mining technology, who dominated
Endowed with mining technology? What the fuck?
tribes.
Is this turned up all the way? It is turned up. So this Lego eating motherfucker. Look at these AI hands. What the fuck? Look at these AI. Or was it? It's 5 fingers and no thumb. Oh my god.
Strongholds all over the Americas. They were either extinguished or went back to the heavens. In 1553, Pedro Cienza de Leon wrote in the Chronicles of Peru about legendary giants described to him by the Manta people. There are, however, reports concerning giants in Peru who landed on the coast at the point of Santa Elena. The natives relate the following ancestral tradition.
I'm tired for some reason.
Boats made of reeds,
Fuck.
as big as large ships. A party of men of such size.
All right, man. Where's your fucking? Where's your sources? Where's the sources? There's no sources.
And it was a monstrous.
What is this shit? There's no sources.
Hair reaching to the shoulders. Their eyes were as large as small plates. Leon said that the sexual habits of the giants were revolting to the natives, and that heaven eventually wiped out the giants.
Is this fan fiction?
Sexual habits.
Is this just fan fiction?
American tribe indigenous to the parts of Nevada have an oral tradition that they told to early white settlers of the area about a race of red-haired white giants that their ancestors referred to as the Sitica.
Source is calling. He's pulling his ass.
Written down in 1882 by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins.
It's just
daughter
fan
of the
fiction.
Paiute Indian chief. In her book,
It's
Life Among
just
the
fan
Paiutes,
fiction.
Their wrongs and claims. These giants were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. The Paiutes spoke of a great battle that took place, which led to their extermination at a site known today.
These guys just ate us when we died. It was fucking wild, man. It was fucking crazy.
Thousands of artifacts inside this cave, leading to a lengthy
Wait,
excavation
what?
of the site.
Ah! Come back. Please, come back. Huh.
Astonishing. 10,000 artifacts, such as tools, bones, baskets, and weapons were found during the excavations. Also, according to the report, 60 average height mummies were unearthed.
Average height mummies?
Known in the world.
Wait, average? Wait, where? What? Hang on. What the fuck?
10,000 artifacts, such as tools, bones, baskets, and weapons were found during the excavations. Also, according to the
What? Why is it in Greek?
average height mummies were unearthed.
What the fuck? It was in Greek. What the fuck?
Known in the world, with feathers still attached to them. The sandal were 15 inches long.
It's all them Legos, Reno Redhead.
Donut shaped.
I told you, tore up the inside of his mouth.
5 notches carved along the outside. 2 corresponding notches.
Hey, why aren't you showing it?
Found, which some scientists believe is a calendar.
Why aren't you showing it? Why aren't you showing it?
Found
All those what? Yeah.
back to 2030 BC. A human femur dating back to 1450 BC. Human muscle tissue dating back to 1420 BC. And basketry dating back to 1218 BC. Archaeologists conclude from this that
Oh, hang, this is the wrong one. I need to go here, not there. Okay, save myself.
All those what?
Northern Paiutes. They're the initial red-haired giants.
I don't know what you're talking about.
6.5 feet tall, and the other a male that was over 8 feet
Do
tall.
I need to tap the sign? The sign you're wrong on?
The bones have since mysteriously disappeared.
See? The bone. See, that's where I'm going. There's a twist to this. And it quite literally was. The bone just appeared. Doesn't say anything, doesn't actually explore the idea of why that could possibly be it. Maybe they just got tossed out. Maybe it just got tossed out. But here we go.
Find evidence of towering figures of Native American legends in the remarkable
Dargesh. All right.
of the archaeological digs.
All right.
While the line between fact
Dargesh, you timed out for
still
what?
Blurry,
2 minutes?
enduring fascination with these colossal beings persists, urging us to continue unraveling the mysteries that connect the realms of folklore and history.
I'm unable to time out the user.
On the giants of America.
Let
us know in the comments.
Did Dargesh just suddenly get a fucking? Did Dargesh just get like fucking immunity to?
Like, share, and subscribe.
To being timed out?
If you have
Hot
any
120,
comments or
yeah.
Show ideas. We love to hear.
Somebody redo. Okay, so that was a lot of bullshit. That was a lot of bullshit of what he was spewing there, and the bones mysteriously vanished. Oh man.
Dr. Phillips.
Okay. We're gonna be wrapping up here. Raptor's getting tired. He's gotta do some cleaning up a little bit. We'll wait till Dargesh gets back. Tomorrow I'll be back at 11 a.m. with Owen McDonald. I'll be doing a conversation with them. I don't know what's being covered. What did Dargesh do to get super lunch? Dargesh, somebody asked to time out Dargesh. Somebody redeemed timed out user. Or time out another user. Doesn't make you right. Joke's on you. If there's no one to argue against me, I'm right. But we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. We just yell and run for the bed. The bed beers. True. Let's go ahead and get on out of here though here shortly. We'll give some affection over to Space Cadet Monster. I don't know if they're going to be someone who remembers me, but we'll find out. Like I said, how's Asmongold doing? He actually came out with a really good apology. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know if it's good, but he came out with an apology recently. I heard it was good. I can give it a watch. And give you my opinion. I don't know though. Fuck. So there is that. I can give it a watch tomorrow. But that's all good. Looks like Space Cadet Monster is playing Dale and Dawson's Stationary Supplies. I don't know what fucking game that is. It's all good. 11 a.m. I'll be talking with Owen and just some people. We'll do some more what co-working after all that, because I really need to do this book. Like, I just need. It's getting.
If you ain't 6 feet.
It feels like I'm inside my eyelids, and I don't want to be here anyway. But here, I don't want to be here anyway. But here, I got a red room. It is right out when the sun sets in my bedroom. It is right out when the sun sets in my bedroom. If
I have a good idea. I mean, it's funny. You know, when your phone goes off. Oh, please be. No.
No.
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
Oh, bunny rabbit.
Winnow! Hi! Good morning! What you doing, Weeby? Huh? It's Johnny! It's Jun Jun! Can I see all your toys? Oh, that's a lot for a big baby fox. Yes, it is. Got all those toys?
Oh, sorry. You want... Okay.
Little waggy thing. You happy? He says, I'm kind of watching the fox, Daddy. I know he's out here somewhere, but I'm going to be happy, even though. Hi, John. Hi. Hi, Eves. Hi, Eves. Did you eat anything last night? I see you left your chicken legs out. You didn't want chicken. Well, you know what? I'm really sorry. Chicken.
Tonight, who's down to fuck tonight? Ooh, she was looking real sexy, nice curved hips, pretty brown eyes, body banging, built like a stallion, popped the valley, then I felt the vibe. Hours later, we kept conversating, flirting back and forth, it was getting complicated. Kissed her for the very first time. Mwah, D to the one. It feels good when our lips are touching. Nickname D-Lo, real name Dustin. I was wondering, your dimensions 32, 25, 34. Oh, did I mention the wine in the wine rack? Relax, now the lights get dim. The last thing I did before I slipped it in. You know the time is right. These worlds that might collide. It's like the perfect night to bang it down and walk the night. You know I'll do you right.
Are you sending me messages, AC?
I wanna lick your stick, you ride you like my motorbike tonight. Who's down to fuck tonight? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Tonight, tonight. Who's down to fuck tonight? Ooh, now where should I start? So many different stories to remember, it's hard. About to speak from my heart, break it down to the basics. Not real good with names, but I'm great with faces. Some people are tasteless, but I'm gonna be blatant. The things girls will do can be so fucking amazing. When the night gets raging, they start feeling strange, and all of a sudden 3-on-1, wow, what an arrangement. Crazy shit, strictly running the show. Chicks sitting on the floor, duck, duck, goose, go. I love females, call all the girls you know. You can never have enough, you could always use more. At a prison home party, things are usually cracking. And if Rick is in the house, then things are happening. I like badass bitches that drop for 5 hours to come get a nut, take a shower, and bounce. You know the time is right. These worlds that might collide. It's like the perfect night to bang it down.
After Keir Starmer announced that he would deregulate parts of the economy to woo business capital, it didn't take long for Health Secretary Wes Streeting to jump on the bandwagon. When asked if he supported more deregulation in the NHS, he said this.
This argument about pro-anti-regulation
which has sometimes fallen into a left-right argument, has often not been the right debate in politics.
So he's wrong then, the boss of good.
No, actually, I agreed with him very strongly, actually. I mean, take the NHS. We have huge amounts of regulation, and of course it concerns the provision of health and care. That's patient safety, it's life and death. Really important that we have regulation in place. My observation, and in fact some work that's currently being done at the moment to review our health regulator, finds that there is actually so much regulation that the people regulated aren't clear about what it is they're supposed to be doing. And we've got multiple regulators who are often colliding with each other and working across each other. So more regulation does.
I know what you're going to say there. I really do. Hoi hoi. I can't be heard. Right. This is annoying me. Hoi hoi. Fuck. Why is this not working? Hoi hoi.
Doesn't always mean better regulation.
So don't you think there's too much regulation in the NHS in some aspects then?
I do, and I'll...
British Medical Association. The British Medical Association is presently supporting legal action against the healthcare regulator, the General Medical Council, for failing to properly distinguish between actual qualified doctors and physician associates. In this case, deregulation of what defines a doctor in order to bring about a cheaper health service could well impact patient safety. Now, what's very interesting here is the government announced that they will give away Ozempic, a weight loss drug, for free. Now, the idea behind it is to give people who can't work due to their weight, apparently. This, in theory, will make them fit for work. These will be targeted towards overweight and unemployed people. Now, how would this tie into NHS deregulation? Well, it's very possible that it has something to do with this. Since 2022, Kazim Katay had donated a total of £50,000 to the Labour Party. Kazim Katay is CEO of Nova Holdings. Nova Holdings own controlling stakes in weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. Today, Labour plan to force weight loss jabs on the unemployed. So, Is there a correlation between Wes Streeting personally taking hundreds of thousands of pounds from private healthcare firms and coming up with the ideas to give away drugs meant for diabetes for weight loss, and now coming out in support of NHS deregulation? The connection is hard to ignore. David, Streeting says there's too much regulation in the NHS, but is this a cover to give even more commercial involvement in our health service?
Yes, I have to be that blunt. Yes, it absolutely is. Wes Streeting a couple of years ago took his plans for the NHS to a right-wing think tank, and he received a lot of praise from what he said there. He was very transparent about the fact that his plans to speed the NHS up involve greater infiltration of private entities into public healthcare. And the problem is, this involves my old career. It's what I used to do. I used to supply locums to the NHS. And the big concern is, whether through ignorance or design, Streeting is ignoring that a huge pool of privately employed healthcare workers are dual employed. They don't solely work for private healthcare interests. They do both. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. The NHS has the training scheme and a very generous pension scheme, as I remember. But also privately, you get paid better, your contracts are more flexible, and you're free to do more things. So the problem isn't that, like, Streeting's trying to sell his plans as like access to this, secret cavern of healthcare-ness that's just not there, because a lot of the people that staff it actually also work in the NHS. And what's going to happen with those people is he's going to force a choice to work more with private entities and actually lower the capacity of the NHS, because they'll be over there seeing people privately at a premium that we will pay because it's free at the point of use, instead of seeing people in the NHS by dealing with the contracts that they had forced on them in 2015 by Jeremy Hunt.
Now, obviously, he was saying in that clip there that there's a lot of regulation that gets in the way of providing healthcare. Do you think there's anything to the argument that some regulation is a burden? Or is this complete nonsense? Because I'm sure there are a handful of regulations that do not make sense whatsoever. In fact, may even prop up the private involvement in the NHS. I mean, as someone who's worked in the NHS, is this something that you agree with? Is this something that you think there may be some forms of regulation that should be scrapped?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I found really frustrating when I was recruiting. I used to recruit locum consultant and specialty doctors for specific positions for the LTHT Trust. And there are regulations in place that make it incredibly costly, time-consuming, stuff like that. And if that's the kind of deregulation we're talking about, that's just a common sense modernisation of an NHS that's existed in a very similar form for a long time. But is that what we're talking about? And it's this murky lack of transparency that Labour is really typified by.
Okay, let's... Hoi hoi. Ah, Christ's sake. Huh.
In this new form that really annoys me, because you have him saying we need to deregulate the NHS and not giving us any clue, but alluding to private bodies. You have Rachel Reeves talking about deregulating the building industry. And what are we talking about here, Rachel? Are we talking about moving away from the regulations of the EU with the environmentally friendly toilets? Or are we talking about moving away from things that make housing generally less green? We need specifics, so we can't make a judgment, and it's also position. But because of the lack of trust in Streeting as a person, because he's, frankly, on a personal level obnoxious, but also has worked with a lot of right-wingers and is receiving praise from ex-conservatives, it's concerning, and we're allowed to question these things. And I think until they're more open, we're going to keep asking these questions.
I mean, it's exactly that, because if someone were to make that argument, the argument in and of itself isn't particularly bad. Some regulation probably could be scrapped. But again, as you just pointed out, it's Wes Streeting in particular that we don't trust. And that brings me on to Ozempic, because we know that Wes Streeting has taken hundreds of thousands of pounds from private healthcare companies. The Labour Party has too. So it's him that we don't trust. And when he says NHS reform or remove regulations, that to me is a euphemism for more private involvement. I do want to ask you about Ozempic, though. This is the government's new idea to get people back into work. And if you ask me, this feels incredibly depressing and dystopian. What are your thoughts on that?
I've read quite a lot of articles about it because there was a lot of supposition around what it meant. You know, the way the articles were framed was it was really dystopian. You know, like obese, unemployed people to be forced on Ozempic. I went to the hospital last week, and I'm classed as obese, and I'm a little bit like, could I just possibly? But the thing to bear in mind is it's a small scale scheme. It's 5,000 people over 5 years who have opted into this scheme to try this weight loss drug to see if it does have an effect, because there is a supposition that there's a link between the two. And if that was all that it was, I think it's fine. I also saw people saying, oh, so we have to scrap the winter fuel payment, but we can afford this. My concern is we're being paid by, I can't remember the name of the company, is Eli Lilly that produces the drug. We're being paid £271 million to run this scheme, which just feels a little bit unclean, you know? If I understood more about why this has been decided to be a thing that we'll do, then I'd probably be a little bit more open to seeing what comes of it. But I just feel a bit wrong about it all, you know?
I mean, I think the issue here is that it might not be the issue with Ozempic itself. I've seen a lot of people kind of, raise the alarm on it. There may be a few people who are probably overstating how bad this could be for you. I'm more interested in why. Because, first of all, you just noted there that we're being paid to trial it out. Now, why would they do that? Why would private healthcare companies go out of pocket to do this if they see this as a return on investment? I'm not...
Curtis, they're using us as guinea pigs. Simple as that. They want to make sure that it works in, I hate having to say this, lower classes, essentially, like working class, people who actually work for their living to support their households and stuff. But they're using us as guinea pigs. They've been using us as guinea pigs for the last, I want to say 300 years. But for the last at least 100 years, they've been using us, the lower classes, the working class, the ordinary British citizen or ordinary European citizen. They've been using us as guinea pigs to test their theories and their hypotheses with whatever new technology or drug or whatever. They've been doing that for ages now. It's only now that we've started to recognise in the last sort of 20 or 30 years. I would hope to say in my lifetime, so in the last 45 years, we've been noticing this happening. So we can counter their bullshit arguments, essentially.
Again, I'm not necessarily against any forms of trials. We kind of need that in healthcare. It makes me very uncomfortable that a private company wants to trial this through a health secretary who was very open to privatization. He once said that we should open the floodgates to privatization in the health service. So to me, this looks like a profit-making capitalist machine. Now, that doesn't mean that the CEO of the company is sat in a dark room going, how can I milk money off people? It's not really how it works. That person generally might want to help people, but the system itself is the problem. This is what worries me about it. And another angle on this, which also worries me, is that...
Hi. Hello. Damn, where have I went? Hoi hoi. Ah, for crying out loud. Liu.
It feels like this is demonizing the working class or people who are struggling to get into work, and especially equating people with weight issues, saying it's kind of saying they're lazy. So I want to ask you about that, not necessarily the drug itself, but the implication or even the message here, and that is also